I must say that at EcoMotion, we hosted a lot of delegations coming from all over the world, everyone with the same question: what happened in Israel that Israel became such a hotspot for mobility, making everyone come from all over the world? And there were 4 logos all the time in that slide. One of them was Better Place, which maybe was not the greatest success story, but what it was, that 2 things. One, it put us on the map, and we have you to thank for that. It really put all eyes on Israel in that sector, in our domain of mobility and automotive. And the other one is that once it closed, a lot of your employees went on in the market and joined startups, created startups, and really ignited a lot of all the innovation that is happening.
Well, I don't want to take credit for that, because I think we were blessed by having this amazing talent pool of hundreds of people that were super passionate about what Better Place was doing as a mission, more so than just, robots changing batteries, et cetera, et cetera. And I was blessed by having that talent work with me. It's not that I created them, they created me. And so I think that the fact that they moved on, and Barak is just a giant in the industry, and the rest of the industry is blessed by having this talent is just fantastic, and I think that's good.
Yes, we're all thankful for that. But today, and we'll talk about Better Place later, I'm not going to let you go on that. Today you're here with another hat. You're chairman of Makalu, which is the next generation of LiDARs. I had the opportunity to do a demo and to see it live. And Shai will explain now what is Makalu, what makes it so special, and he brought to you a demo that you can see how it looks and feels from...
We'll get to it in a second.
Okay. You want to give a little heads up.
Set it up. So indeed, we again, I'm working with Sagi Tzadka, who's here, our CEO, and he's the genius behind what we do at Makalu. We looked at the issue of autonomous vehicles and automating driving. And it's pretty obvious that the brains, as Shai described, and again, another giant in the industry, Shai's...
We'll talk a little bit about what Shai said, because as he was speaking, I added another question.
But the driver is getting to be at the level of a Formula One driver, right? So he's right. You can press a button today and drive a car from Jerusalem here, and it drives perfectly well. Unfortunately, the eyes of that driver are sort of 80-year-olds' cataract eyes. They're hampered, but the driver is so good that it's able to drive with non-perfect vision. The reason everybody, and Alex has asked this, why is the industry not showing up already? Because we were told, all cars will drive by 2020. Is that the problem is not getting one car to drive. The problem is getting many, many cars to drive. And so it's an issue of scale more so than the issue of one. Amnon Shashua, the giant of our industry, has called it the 10 to the 7 problem, right? So how do I get many cars to drive tens of millions of hours? Or the rest of the industry calls it a 10 to the 9 problem because they count kilometers. So how do I get a fleet of cars to drive 1 billion kilometers between every accident? And that's the issue. The issue is, how do I get to see the world good enough so that when I have an incident, it's really a freak of occurrences, not one. So we started from that definition and said, you got to change the way you see the world. And the way you see the world today is you sort of string together the one-eyed perfect vision camera, but it only sees one eye, so it has no 3 dimensions. So it only sees the world in 2 dimensions. You put together a not so good sight in 3 dimensions, the LiDAR, and it sees the world kind of slowly and in grainy pixels, almost like VGA Ataris from the 70s. And you put the blind man radar, and you say, please listen to what's happening. And then you put all 3 of them in the back seat, and you say, argue. Tell me if you're seeing the world, and what should I do? And based on that, you drive. And we said, no, what you need is one good vision, unified at 4K resolutions, that sees the world 100 times a second and can see it very, very far out. So if Jan is willing to show us what the future of sensor is, we'll see it on the screen. This was taken live yesterday. What you're seeing is 3-dimensional picture. Most of you will probably recognize Jaffa. And
You talked about speed, resolution. Explain how this is better than the speed you were talking about.
So if you've ever seen a LiDAR, this is not what you're used to. This is not a camera. This is a three-dimensional view of the world at 4K, running at 50 frames per second. And you're seeing the world in 3D. So this is Shuka Pishpishim, for those of you who know. The white stuff in the back is Bloomfield. So I don't know if you can recognize that, but you can actually see from Shuka Pishpishim all the way to the top of the stadium. And what you're seeing here is perfect vision. In a sense, every object here is trackable. It's in 3D, so this is two views at the same time. And with that, you actually can analyze every object, where it is, how fast it's moving, is it accelerating. Because you're seeing it in color, I can see the person just like I can see you're facing me. So you're recognizing that I'm here, which is what we do on the road. When you see a traffic light, it's not just there. It's red or green. You can understand what you're seeing at very short distance. So do I have somebody jumping into my lane? And a very, very far distance so that I can actually understand how the road looks and plan ahead.
The color is what blew me away because all of a sudden I was like, wait, it's a LiDAR, but I can see if it's red and white or blue and white, if I can park or not. I can see signs.
Yep.
And it's not just the outline of a sign, but what's written in it. And basically it's bringing camera capabilities into LiDAR.
It's unifying the three modalities, if you want, of the sensors, the camera, the LiDAR, and the radar, and actually putting that into a very simple device that spews out pixels in color with object analysis, with an understanding of where they're moving, and a full understanding is critical to make these predictions that Shai talked about. So if you think of what we're trying to solve, we have two very different problems, one on a very long distance and one at a very short distance. In the long distance, I want to understand if there is a tire on the road, right? So if I'm driving a car on the freeway, you know, on Highway 1 coming in, and there is a tire on the road, and I recognize that tire from 20 meters, I'm already dead. If I stop, somebody's going to hit me in the front, and if I don't, I'm going to roll over and fall off the cliff. And so the first problem is understanding at very, very high resolution at very long distance. But at a short distance, I got to react really fast. And But
you're not giving the reaction, you're just giving the vision.
But what I do is I give you the vision 100 times a second, right? So our eyes see the world 12 times a second. And so to stop, if a kid runs into, and which I did twice in my life, a kid runs stupidly into the road, we can't stop every time we see the kid for the first time. We got to see the kid for the first time. We got to see it the second time. We got to see it the third time. So
You're speaking about the camera, LiDAR, radar, seeing it one time, two times, three times?
Our eyes.
Oh, the
images. If I stopped every time I saw a kid on the road, I'd stop all the time because there are lots of kids on the sidewalk. But I got to see if the kid is moving. To see if they're moving, I got to see them the first time to recognize them. Second time to see if they've changed location. Third time, are they accelerating or decelerating? Fourth time to make sure I'm not stopping for no good reason. 0.1 second, 0.1 second, 0.1 second, 0.1 second. Humans stop at 0.4 seconds. So from the first sight of that kid till I decide to press the brake, it's the decision time, 0.4 seconds. And most AV stacks do the same thing. They take 4 cycles, each one 100 milliseconds, 0.4 seconds, and then they decide to stop. But what if your cycle is not 0.1 second, it's 0.01 second? So I have 10 milliseconds. I can see the kid once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm not sure, 9, no, I'm not sure, 10. I've seen the kid 10 times. I know if I'm going to hit the kid. And I've seen him 10 times, and I've made the decision to stop. My eye had only seen that kid for the first time.
So enabling also safety, but also lessen the failure responses.
What we do, and that's the heart of machine learning, and we don't do this machine learning, we do it in a deterministic way. We cheapen the cost of prediction, right? So the entire thing about machine learning, entire thing about AI is to reduce the cost of prediction. Because if I can predict this entire conversation, I can predict it 1,000,000 times. If it costs me 30 minutes of my life to go through this conversation, we're not going to do this 1,000,000 times. But if I can do it with GPT, and I can click a button, and it will generate the entire conversation, it's not good, I'll press it again, I'll press it again, I'll press it again. We've reduced the cost of prediction because the cost of waiting another time to see the world one more time is another 0.01 second. It's okay. If I'm not sure, I'll wait again. 0.01. The cost in this case is time. And by reducing the cost, all of a sudden, we tell you, hey, just see the world more time until you're sure, and then stop. So we changed the decisions long distance, and we changed the decisions short distance. That changes the way you can drive automatically a car. It's completely revolutionizing the way you need to think about what's the stack structure, how do you perceive, how do you predict, and then how you plan.
And with Better Place, I feel like you were ahead of your time. Here, don't you feel you're a little late? There's a lot of industry players that are already creating partnerships and already working on deploying and getting down to the production lines. Don't you feel everyone's a little bit ahead?
I'm not sure it's a good joke, but my joke about Better Place is I wasn't ahead of my time. My time was late. I think that again, it's an industry where giants had built things, and Isaac Newton used to say that he saw further because he stood on the shoulders of giants. We're just standing on their shoulders to put glasses on. We're not seeing instead of them. We're trying to work so that Mobileye and all the other companies are able to actually see the world better to make what they do work better. We're not trying to replace them. We're not trying to revolutionize or disrupt them. We're trying to enable them. And so I think that this industry has not yet materialized, mainly because it missed the fact that the sensor is not there yet, right? It's almost as if you started electrification and go back to EV1, back in 2000 when GM started, and they had the right vision, but the battery wasn't there yet. And I think here, the sensors weren't there yet. And I think that once you get the sensors, the brains are already there. The brains, the driver, the automated driver in code is getting to be really, really good.
So if we will be already there, if I give you now a crystal ball, when will we reach level 5? And Shai said we cannot guarantee safety. What do you have to say about that in reaching level 5? Because I think this is going to be one of the main issues for autonomy to deploy.
So it's hard to put a date on something like that, but I can tell you that the goal is to get to a point where you got a robo-taxi that drives, a good 500 million to 1 billion kilometers between incidents. When you get there, I want to put it in perspective. That means you've got a piece of code that can drive roughly the number of kilometers that the entire state of Israel does in a year and have one accident. So if you have a piece of code like that runs this entire country and brings it down from 500 deaths a year to 1 per year, will you allow other people to drive? Because if you can actually eliminate 500 deaths, this is what I call an unkiller idea. All of a sudden, the permission to drive on a road, not sort of fun on the side, will be very different. And so you get to the algorithm, you'll see it deployed. The regulator will want it, the insurance companies will want it deployed, and it will get into personal-owned cars very, very quickly once you can do a robo-taxi. Now,
so shaking the ball, what year?
Somewhere around the end of the decade, plus minus 2 years. So I think you're somewhere between 28 and 32, I would say. And we originally thought it's a linear process or an exponential process of doubling the distance. I think it's going to be a step function. You got to see the world, then you got to predict the world, then you got to plan. Planning is really easy, but seeing is really hard. And so I think it's not a linear or exponential. It's a step function, and it's the sensors that would actually put it. Let me put it in perspective. ChatGPT had the ChatGPT moment, right? So all of a sudden, everybody knows that there's ChatGPT, and people worked on GPT, including Amnon, who worked on AI-21 for a long time. But it moved on and on and on and on, and all of a sudden, it's good enough to do, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. And that was what the expectation was around in the car industry, right? So that we're going to double and double and double and double every 6 months, and eventually we're going to get to be good enough. The problem is, imagine ChatGPT had a problem with its sensor, the prompt, the text. And you'd ask, are we good? And it would only miss one letter. And it would think, oh, are we food? And it will answer that. Are we food? And say, no, you're not food. You say, oh, like that's not intelligence. That's stupid. But all it missed is one letter. Those are the sensors we have today. Right? We have sensors that we say, are we good? And they see the world, are we food? And they miss a letter every once in a while, and you hit a tree. You miss a letter once in a while, you move to the wrong lane. You hit a truck, right? And you think it's the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah, the white truck laying down.
Yeah.
So back to Better Place, because I think that everyone is impressed, and I was blown away from that demo, and I really believe that there's a new story to this autonomy now, and I'm looking forward to see everything that comes out of it. So back to Better Place, right now what I'm seeing is that people are revisiting the battery swapping idea in China, and probably other places in the world will continue. Why do you think it will succeed now? Why didn't it succeed in Israel? Is it now a better time, better place?
So the Chinese market has a different issue of it was primarily charging. Here, when you have an electric vehicle, you also have your own parking spot, and so you can put a charger at home, and with a battery that takes you 400, 500, 600 kilometers, having charging at home is good enough. Most people don't drive beyond that. In China, that's not the case. Right? You have a lot of people who don't have their own dedicated parking spot at home in shared apartment buildings, and so it's first come, first serve. You don't even have a place to put the charge spot.
Actually, an Israeli importer told me that only 40% of the Israeli population has a parking spot.
Similar problem that prohibits them from actually having a location where they can charge. And so the model with swap now has actually become more, when we thought of swap as an extension mechanism, the Chinese market is thinking of swap as a replacement for a gas station. So if you think of the gas station model is swapping, right? So you come in with an empty gas tank, and you swap in 400, 500, 600 kilometers from the gas station, and you keep driving, right? And so the model is, I'll visit the gas station once a week, I'll put in 400 or 500 kilometers, I keep going, which is what a swap station at 1 minute or 3 minutes would do for NIO or for most of the Chinese car makers. We thought of it as more of I charge at home, I charge at work, and every once in a while I'm going to take the long road. And we're going to visit my mother-in-law, and she doesn't have a charge spot, so I got to swap on the way in or on the way out.
Like fast charging today, that's how we look at fast charging, to have that extension. But do you think that's the reason then, that the vision of Better Place having that as a range extender and not as the main? That's the reason it didn't succeed?
Look, I don't want to go into detail why.
Let's Shai.
No, but it's a history lesson. I think we got to give credit to the fact, Barak and his team at the time built an amazing network of battery swap stations, and they worked. And if they're owners of Better Place cars at the time, they loved the cars, and they weren't fancy cars, but they were completely loved by everybody who owned them at the time and kept them for a long time. And I think in the bigger picture, we started expanding worldwide. It could have succeeded just as much. To a certain degree, we sort of snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, more so than anything failed in particular in the system itself.
Okay, he doesn't want to go there. So I want to use the fact that we have Shai on stage and we have entrepreneurs in the crowd. 2 tips for entrepreneurs in the automotive mobility space. What would you tell them? From your experience, you've been in this field for a long time, what would you advise?
Keep at it. Don't give up. It's not a sure and easy road to solve, especially in the automotive sector. It's actually harder than software. There's a saying about hardware. There's a reason it's called hardware, because it's effing hard. This is a very, very hard industry to succeed in, but if you do, you make a difference in this world. And be focused on your mission, not just on sort of exits or something like that. Be focused on what it is that you're going to make a difference. There's only sort of one shot at life. Make it valuable.
You said to me something about listening that I loved.
What did I say?
That you said that what entrepreneurs need to focus on is to listen also to the OEMs, to the tier ones.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The
Something you learned from your last round,
Yeah,
and then we can go there a little bit.
I think one of the things that we did, and I think it was one of the key mistakes we had at the time with Better Place, is we came in to preach. And so we had a vision, and we were locked on it, and we came in and we preached that you're going to change everything you do to this. You know, it's got to be this to actually work. And none of the things you're going to do otherwise will succeed, and you know, if not, God bless you, we'll go away. And I think what we've done now with most of the conversations we have with OEMs is we come and we say, you tell us what you need. What is the real problem? And it's not just the vision, not just what you saw. I mean, they told us it's got the key issue we got is we don't have a place to put the LiDAR, right? If we put it in the grill, it's too low, we don't see anything. It's like getting stuck behind the car. We put it on the roof, we got to plan the roof again. So they said, make it so that we can fit it inside the car. This is the LiDAR. It actually fits in my pocket, right? So this is the unit. It's actually smaller than my hand. You can put it behind the windshield. They said, don't change the windshield, don't change the roof. Make it really, really small. We didn't invent this. They invented it. They told us, make it this small, right? So you got to listen to the OEMs. They've got 100+ years, each one of them, of experience. They got millions of years of work. They got incredible ability in scaling and talent and understanding quality. You got to listen to the OEMs, and you got to let them tell you what to do. Don't tell them, don't preach to them. They know better than you.
Thank you, Shai Agassi. Have a wonderful EcoMotion week. Listen to each other, talk to each other, and make fun and great things together.
Indeed. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.